Well, one of the countries, of course, that's been badly affected by Ebola is Liberia. And a new radio programme about the virus has been launched this week. It was produced by BBC's Media Action team and it's been carried on local radio stations in Liberian English slang. Have a listen to what it sounds like.
Hello and welcome. I'm Douglas Farngalo and you are listening to Kick Ebola from Liberia, a BBC Media Action programme.
Together we can make it. Together we can make it.
Well, that was the voice of Douglas Farngalo, who is the presenter of BBC Media Action's Liberian English programme, Kick Ebola from Liberia. Douglas is with me now, and also here is the programme editor, Prue Clarke. Douglas, tell us what the show is about.
Thank you very much, Lucy. This programme is styled in Liberian English. Liberian English is a niche in West Africa. It's only spoken in Liberia among rural dwellers and was brought in by former slaves as they came to use as a medium to communicate with the natives they met on the grounds. And this program sort of connects with the people on the ground who cannot really, people on the grounds who, do not understand standard English. And we try to tell the stories of people who have survived Ebola. We try to bring to bear the community decisions and the perceptions and opinions of the community leaders on the ground. And that's what we're doing right now to get the message to ordinary Liberians.
Prue, is that the experience of people on the ground, that actually the message is still not getting through?
Well, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of mistrust of various players in the country. And I think the key is getting trusted people to say the right things. So when they hear it from somebody that they trust, a traditional leader, a religious leader, then they're more likely to believe it and implement the things that they recommend in their daily
So they're not
habits.
trusting these Western aid agencies that are coming in with these messages?
Well, maybe the message isn't quite getting across the way it should. So, we're hearing very much from the ground that having it in Liberian English, in the language they speak, in the ways they like to hear it, and from the people they trust is very important. And the other great thing about this is that we're really capitalising on years of trust built by BBC over the years, and it has incredible resonance on the ground.
Douglas, are you still giving people basic messages like to wash your hands all the time?
Yes, we're giving them basic messages through our program. We're not trying to be sort of direct to them and tell them wash your hands with clean water or whatnot. We're trying to do that through people who they trust. People trust their imams, their religious leaders, for example. They trust their community leaders. So we get to them, we ask them what's the story, how are they being impacted by Ebola, and what message they have for their people. Because there's some imam and some religious leaders who are inaccessible, and through our medium we can get to them. And especially with the BBC, it's very significant. As Prue just said, the BBC is a credible medium on the ground since the war. Through Focus on Africa, every home, every child, Focus on Africa is like a common name among everybody. And when you have such a program like this being transmitted, produced by the BBC, it reaches far and wide across Liberia.
Prue, what sort of myths are still going around in Liberia about Ebola?
I think the real challenges are now the burials, that people just can't let go of something that's so important in their cultural practices, washing of the bodies, getting together to do all sorts of things that they believe are really important to show respect. And so I think it's a lot of people know that these are dangerous settings, but they really need to hear how to do it differently, and to hear imams and pastors saying that it's okay to celebrate later. The body doesn't have to be there for you to show respect, and helping people understand that and feel okay about changing those practices to stay safe.
Douglas, is it also very important to give people stories that are hopeful? I know that one of the stories you've had is an interview with a nurse who actually survived Ebola. Is that important too, to say to people, this doesn't have to be a death sentence?
Yeah, that's also important as well, because this nurse only escorted a patient to the center and realized days later that she had Ebola, but she also survived it. So we sort of like asked her you know, what message does he have? How is she being treated? How was she being treated in the ETU, for example? Because we try to demystify this whole idea of the ETU. People have this perception that once you're taken into these quarantine centers, I mean, it's a death sentence, and you will die definitely if you get there. And we also must track the impact or the input of the international community and the DEC awareness as well. It's making a strong impact on the grounds because Liberians for the first time are being aided by these international organizations, doctors, selflessly volunteering their services to go in. We must commend the British and American government for coming to our aid at this time. And we know that through such programs like this produced by the BBC Media Action, where you touch people's lives, where you tell people your brother has survived from Ebola, it doesn't mean he still have the virus. You can still embrace him. You can still bring him into the community. It's sort of like cut barriers between stigmatization and all that, and sort of like drives the message across and go a long way in stopping the spread of the virus.
Such an important thing you're doing. Thank you both very much
for
joining us. Douglas and Prue there. Kick Ebola from Liberia, which is a BBC Media Action programme.